The same.
Can you test your mic?
Test.
Okay.
Checkity check. Test.
And then I will test that. So, what movie do you think is the best, Zach?
Disney movie? Or
Yeah,
any movie ever?
No. I mean, you were just complaining that Emperor's New Groove is not the best. Or?
No. Mitch made the bold statement that what's the name of the movie?
The Mitchells versus the Machines.
And he said it's almost as good as Emperor's New Groove.
It's not as good.
And I had said, I'm glad that you said almost, because if you would have just said it's better, I would have just said I can't talk to you ever again.
You're not a fan of Emperor's New Groove?
No, it's amazing. One of the best. Oh my gosh.
I'm not.
You have to be ready for the just obscure, quirky, offbeat comedy.
I'm totally on board with that.
Me too.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that one.
I don't know if we can be friends.
Although, if I had to pick
we will cut here immediately.
if I had to pick just one movie that I could watch for the rest of my life, it'd probably be Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh,
that
so
is incredible.
Good. Amazing soundtrack.
Ooh, that's man, that's a great question.
I'm going to go Cool Hand Luke. I love Paul Newman.
I might say, man, this is really depressing, but Shawshank Redemption?
Ooh,
that's a good one.
That's a good one.
But it's good. By the end, you're happy, right?
Yeah.
Or
That's kind of how I feel about The Green Mile.
same. I mean,
Not a happy movie, but amazing.
anyways, so we drove down to mid-Ohio to talk about film and all things movies, right? Is that
that's the point. This is Trevor's movie podcast.
Yeah. From KOM Cycling and Michigan Midpack Media, welcome to the Dirty Chain Podcast, the podcast that covers the cycling scene from the viewpoint of the Michigan Midpack. I am your host, Trevor, and on this episode, Mitch DeYoung, Zach Natchell, Jason Coonley, and myself recap our experience, our muddy experience of this year's Mohican 100, the 100-mile mountain bike race out of Loudonville, Ohio. The weather was not ideal, as you will hear from our experiences, and it affected all of us in different ways. And I don't want to get into too many details here, but it shortened my race extremely early. And I spent the majority of the day at the beer tent, which I think is very apparent as you will listen to this episode. But where I ramble on and lack a bit of clarity, Mitch and Zach and Jason do a great job of holding down the episode and the conversation. So yeah, super fun weekend. I want to get right to it so you can hear about all the crazy adventures. Mud. The 2003 edition of the Mohican 100. This was a day
Of mud.
And not movies, but
Rain.
So who wants to start? I guess I don't know. Mohican. This was my first Mohican. Zach, how many Mohicans have you done?
It's my first Mohican.
Yeah. Does this constitute as? I guess I haven't done a Mohican. Like at this point, I have not done Mohican.
I unfortunately have to say the same thing. How about you, Mitch?
So this is my fourth or fifth, and this one is hands down the hardest one I've done so far.
I appreciate that because I feel like I don't know. It's tough to. Anyway, we'll get into this, but
My time was 2 hours longer today than the last time I was here, and I'm considerably faster now than I was then.
what was your time?
10 hours and a couple minutes.
Yeah, I saw at the first aid station an average time of less than 10 miles an hour, and I thought this is going to be a long, long day. But then I checked my bike and it was not rideable. Zach, where you had a lot of stuff. I'm pretty upset that you did not have brake pads for me.
I wish I would. I
You
still
had
think I
so-
should have given you my fronts. No, I didn't have brake pads. Shame on you. Shame on you. Todd is upset at you.
Todd is upset that I did not bring extra brake pads.
Somewhere he is shaking in his boots. He's like, I know somebody went to Mohican without brake pads in their bag.
Yeah, but
I think next year when we come to Mohican, we should have shirts made that say, "Did you pack brake pads?"
so Zach, how far did you end up though?
I made it to the second actual aid station, which I think is technically 3 because there's that water station.
Yeah.
So it's 42 miles. And in perspective, it took me 7 hours to get that far, where Mitch only had 3 more hours till he finished. But it was messy.
Don't speed shame me.
It was it was slow for me. And then I just crashed a bunch. So I saw.
You did?
Yeah. So I was fine through the first aid station when I saw you and you asked for brake pads. And I actually thought, I was like, did I not understand the course? I thought you were like finishing a loop and heading back out when you came out there. And I'm like, I do not remember this in the course.
No, I was doing what is considered the ride of shame, and I was riding back here.
But I was a little roughed up from all the
Sure.
mud when I saw you at, I think that's 20 miles at that aid station.
Yeah.
But then the moment I left that aid station, I had like a 10-mile inability to keep the tires down, and I crashed a dozen times. And then the one that did me was I was going on a downhill, hit a sharp right, it slipped out, I hit a tree, and then I landed my hip on this rock. So then at that point I was like, it just didn't come back. So
So what about your new best friends?
my newest friends, I made so many friends on the trail, and I don't really like making friends on the trail. I like to just do my own thing.
Are these like actual friends, or you were in a weird headspace that you
So
created friends?
So I noticed friend 1 just before the aid station that I saw you at, because he pulled off the trail and smoked weed. He lit a joint or something. I don't know what it was, but it was pretty obvious that he did it right in front of me. And he hollered at me. Every time I saw this guy, he hollered at me. I don't know if he was doing that to everybody.
It's because he was high.
So that was definitely a first in all of the years of cycle. But it was after that aid station that said friend and then said other friend had like slowed up for me for some reason. And then I thought it was just going to be like a hi, what's your name? Okay, let's ride on. But they stayed with me for 20 more miles and talked the whole time.
So what about when you asked them to not ride with you anymore?
At one point, I did ask them to, in the nicest way possible, I said, hey, I'm just going to do my own thing. You guys go on. I dismounted and started walking, and so did they.
Wait, is this a thing like for a very long ride? I mean, you rode for
Hours.
6?
I rode for 7 hours.
7 hours. Okay. Like, should there be a thing where, like, if you come up upon a person and they don't want to ride with you, maybe you shouldn't ride with them? Or, like, if you come up...
Typical.
Yeah.
Unless there's, like, a pact where it's like, okay, we're 80 miles in, we're both suffering really bad, but we're going to finish. let's like stay together and finish together.
But
that's the only okay.
Isn't
time.
the pact like you should ask the person and then take some context clues?
I would
and then
think
if that person says, okay guys, I'm good, maybe they.
I guess I didn't know that I needed to spell it out.
I'm pretty sure you did. And they still didn't take it.
And they did not take it. They were nice, I will say that. I can't be angry about that. They were nice guys.
Mitch, I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you to set the scene here a little bit because you, out of the three of us, out of Zach, you, myself, you have done this the most. And I just want for you to like tell people about the conditions of this race normally, or just whenever, like the conditions of this race yesterday,
Yeah.
and then the conditions of the race today. But just we just let people know like what this race typically is, and then what it was today.
Yeah, so I think this race tends to be like 3 years nice, 1 year crap. And this happened to be one of the crap years. I think last year was too. But the course yesterday, we went out to pre-ride, and it was really nice, very hard-packed, fast-rolling. Had a lot of rocks and roots, but they were dry and grippy, and you just had to make sure to pick a decent line.
It actually, like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but, like, it excited me a little bit.
Yeah,
I really liked it was hard. It was difficult, but, like, I was like, oh, man, this is going to be fun.
It is. It's tough. It's rough, but it's a fun course that typically, like, you have a nice, punchy, hard climb followed by kind of a rolling, twisting, fast downhill into another climb, kind of over and over and over. And you're jumping over rocks and roots and just having a good time. And then from there, you go out into some gravel roads that are typically pretty fast, over to Mohican Wilderness, which is just a giant mess because it's huge boulders everywhere. I described it kind of as Margie, but only for 5 miles. Then back out on the gravel roads again, into another single track. This year, they sent us up this climb. It was about a 1.5 mile climb through a place that had just been logged, so it was super soft and muddy and ripped up, and a big 3-mile lollipop because we came back down the same climb we went up, out to more gravel, eventually bringing us back to do the 24 miles of single track again. But for the second lap, for the first lap, it was standing water on the course, but there was some grip under everything. The second lap, everything turned into just grease. So every time you tried to turn your bike, move, pedal, just slides.
This is exactly what I heard, yeah.
But the last 10 miles, it dried out quite a bit and was a lot of fun. It was probably
cool. You just had to wait for 10
the only
90 miles.
10 miles I had.
9 hours of awfulness and 1 hour of great riding.
And that's pretty much it, yeah. But yeah, the course was different this year. Usually only goes around Mohican State Park once, but they did it twice this year. So it made it even harder, even slower, and then it was worse because it was just a muddy, wet, sloppy mess.
Zach, have you ever ridden around here before?
No, this is the first time.
This is like, I'm pretty impressed with this area. We were driving here. It's like, 4 hours from our area in Michigan, and it's like flat, and then all of a sudden, this is pretty impressive. Like, to do a fun weekend of just like camping and riding, not around a race, like this would be a great area to do.
I've come down a couple times just to ride the course or ride this trail, and it is a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like especially there was probably a spot like 10 miles in. I don't remember, but they had clear cut some of the woods, and we opened up onto a 2-track, and it was gorgeous.
Was that where the tornado was?
That might have been the case.
There was a tornado last year, and it just destroyed a bunch of forest stuff. But I never quite was sure where it was.
So, I don't know if I noticed that because I was a little bit on the, unfortunately, like, not physically on the edge, but I was super conservative every other aspect of my riding because of the the mud, and then it was.
Oh,
like,
I was definitely very tentative
Yeah.
for most of the day.
and I was okay with this because, and I was getting passed a lot, honestly. Like, people were passing me left and right. I was okay with it because I knew I would have 100 miles. So it's like, I can let these people pass, and that's fine because it is dumping rain, and it is a river of. It's like a creek running down the single track, and then just didn't stop. I don't know. I mean, wasn't what I wanted.
Then we got off the single track and onto the horse trail.
Yeah, and,
Oh, that was terrible.
Oh my gosh.
but
It was miles of inches of mud. And just every time you'd pedal, you'd get half your tire would spin, like a half rotation spin, and then you get a little grip. Then you'd slide to the side just over and over and over.
yeah, and I mean, I think my thought was I will be conservative, and I'm okay with people passing me, and then all of a sudden my rear brake just stopped working, and my front brake wasn't working great either, and then I just no brakes for a good amount of time.
That's frightening out here.
Send it.
Yeah, send it.
Send it on a course where you could not
Which,
send it
like,
safely.
So, and then I waited at the aid station for Zach to come through.
I wish you would have asked me for my brake pads so
Your
I
brake
wouldn't have
pads. Can I
suffered the
steal-
next 20 miles.
I did not ask you that. I said, do you have extra?
No, that was a thought of mine. I was probably 30 miles in, and I thought, I wish I would have given Trevor my brake pads so I could have quit earlier.
That is not at all. I would have never asked you for that. But man, oh man, it was rough. It was super rough. And then I don't know, like you said, it got greasy, but it definitely, like, the day got better. And I'm really pissed off that my bike broke, or my brakes broke, and the weather was terrible, and then it got better, you know?
Yeah, eventually the sun came out. It was
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I put my sunglasses on twice.
I did learn that mud makes incredible sunblock. I thought I had a tan and it all washed off.
I didn't think about that. I did learn that I really hate when the sticks were getting stuck to my leg in the mud, and then the mud was drying. So it felt like I had like spider webs and stuff on my legs while I was riding. Terrible.
When I got back, all the mud in my socks had dried. I could not get my socks to stretch enough to go over
I
my
had
heel
the
because they had
exact same
so
problem.
much mud in them.
They're still over there. Same problem.
Okay, one thing real quick. Was everyone wearing a house arrest anklet?
Or a triathlete band.
That totally made me feel like my old
Did you-
triathlon days.
Did you see at the start, the dude was walking around looking for people that didn't have it
Yes.
and giving them other ones, and then like
Well, that's the only thing they had for timing. So if you didn't have one, your time didn't count.
yeah.
So Matt and I were talking about this. Is it because they couldn't get was the thing that's normally on the back of your race plate, is the state of Ohio too small? Is that why they did that?
No, because I have plates.
I've never been to a race other than a triathlon
I
where they
have
make you wear it.
previous plates that have that magnetic strip on the back. I think it's just the timing company they used.
It's definitely the worst plate I've ever had.
I mean, it's
You
The
can cut it into the
plates-
shape of a mitten when you get home.
the
I'm planning
plate's
on
not
it.
bad. I did not love it on my ankle, but I did not notice it either.
I actually
I didn't
thought to
either.
myself, I wonder if I'll notice this, and it's not as bad as the old ones that I had to have when I did triathlons.
saw a guy
With like the big red thing on
Yeah,
it.
because those were reusable. They were heavy. They were bulky. They sucked. But I actually, surprisingly, I think that. So like Matt, I want to ask him this question because Matt wears ankle socks,
Oh.
and I can't
Oh, I
imagine.
know.
No,
noticed this.
he
I
must be a
noticed this.
triathlete then, so
he
he's
likes.
okay with it.
He's not a triathlete, but he really likes.
why would he
wearing
wear ankle
ankles.
socks?
I don't know. I didn't have enough time to yell at him about it yesterday. I made a joke about riders wearing ankle socks, and then I looked over and he had ankle socks on this morning.
he rode ankle socks.
He
also?
always does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some other jokes about what appendage we should put that around, but I'm just gonna leave it at that.
All right, I do have a question for you guys because I noticed this when I got back to camp. Did you have mud in your back jersey pockets?
tons of it. I
How
had to
did that
scoop
get
it
in
out
there?
of my pocket?
I had the same problem. I pulled out I always put my wrappers in my left pocket. That way I don't litter. I pulled them out and it was a fistful of mud.
Yep.
And
All
then I felt
three of my
all
pockets.
3 of my pockets.
Absolutely.
It
I
gets on
had
your back and falls in.
I
And I had
had
a backpack on too.
Oh, I don't know.
Did
how
you
did
ever
that.
put your sunglasses on?
Yeah.
So I put my sunglasses in my jersey pocket, and when I quit early, like I pulled them out, and it was caked full of mud.
Yep. I pulled mine out at one of the aid stations, and they were covered, so I put them back in my pocket and rode on. Got to the next aid station and asked them if they had something to clean them with. So they rinsed them off for me, and then I used them. And at the next aid station, I had them on, and they're like, "Do you want us to clean those for you?" It's like, "Yes, yes, please."
That was nice of them.
I got a question for the two of you though. You both have, Mitch, you have done Margie. Zach, you have.
Last year was my first year, and I made it to Jackson Park, which is 65 miles.
Okay.
And that's just before you start Ramba.
I don't want to make a Mohican conversation about Margie, but a lot of this for myself was about Margie. And I can't say that I'm not like a little upset that a race that I wanted to be a progression to Margie, I did not finish. When Margie is one of my biggest goals for the year. And I don't know, like both of you have done it. Both of you have finished. Well, Mitch, you have finished. You have not finished. You've done the both. You've done both. Zach, you have had that as a goal yourself, which I think is awesome. And then now I have a goal of Margie. So I don't know. Like this was a step in that direction, and I haven't really processed it. I mean, I'm only hours from it, but like, I'm not super processed to like, I'm not processing it quite right now, but I kind of want to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. So one consolation for you is your DNF was not because of you and your abilities and your skills and your training. It was a bike-related issue that can be fixed and be prepared for pre-Margie.
Yeah.
So that's good. If you'd gone out here and been, this is just too tough and it's too much. Or today is kind of a different story because of the conditions. This is not ideal. If I showed up to Margie and the conditions were what we had today, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't even start the race.
This is interesting. I've been wondering this about today. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, if, and this is nothing against Mohican, but if I had the same issue at the same mile of Margie that I did today, like, I think I would have figured out a way to keep going.
I think the difference is that at Margie, at least most of the people I've talked to, you've got your crew. So, and I know I used a lot of Mitch and Lori's information from past years for my crew. I saw my crew so often that the worst case scenario, I could hike my bike to the next time I saw them and repair it. If I didn't carry that brake pad on me, I could have fixed it eventually.
Yeah, that's the big difference. We're here.
You can't take anything
None
from
of us
a crew.
had a crew. We just had drop bags, and it's one giant loop. So if you're not going to carry it, you're not going to have it.
Yeah.
I did spend so like earlier I was down at the start finish and I came back up here and hung out by myself for a couple hours because I was thinking about exactly your question. So for me, I didn't have a mechanical and mine was 100% mentality. So for me, if conditions would have been perfect, this probably still would have been a 15-hour day for me. That's my ride speed. I think that's what I could have realistically finished in. Today's conditions, this was a 20-hour day for me. That slowed me down drastically.
It was
And I think
absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
I knew when I saw you at mile 20 that I had not mentally prepared to ride for an entire day. And I knew I wasn't going to get into that headspace, and that was my fault. And that was what I was thinking. And in thinking about Margie, all I think about is I have to be prepared to ride for 25 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be, I mean, frank, in Michigan, we make fun of Ohio for being flat and boring and just one big board of a cornfield. But you get over here, and it is not.
Yeah.
It is, there is nothing flat that we rode today. It's
Yeah,
all up or down, and it's all roots and rocks. And if you're not expecting it, it'll put you in the hurt locker real quick.
I mean, this is like legit trails, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it.
Yep, definitely worth coming down to. Even just to camp down here, or even it's close enough that you can come down, drive down in the morning, do 2 or 3 laps, and drive home and just have it be a day.
Sure.
But
yeah.
there's enough other stuff down here where you could come down and do a day of riding, a day of canoeing or kayaking, and there's a bunch of good hiking around here.
Well, and this
A
campground,
lot of cool stuff.
we were talking earlier, is so nice. Like, this is a place to bring your family.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
even if, like, my wife doesn't ride, my kids are too young to ride, but, like, they would be so entertained around here.
Yeah, and there's a place right across the road that has like a high ropes course,
Yeah.
and zip lines, and all sorts of fun stuff.
The showers in the bathroom are so nice.
They're the 30 years of camping. They're the nicest showers I've ever used in a campground.
They're nice, yeah.
There's a pool and a hot tub here. Did you know that?
Yes.
So as I'm riding back here, the ride of shame, basically from where I was in the back here. I'm riding back, and then basically it was like a left turn to here or a right turn to some like cool paved roads that were just kind of going into the. And I was like, I don't need brakes for paved roads, so I just kind of went that way. I wanted to get a few more, I don't know, miles in, and
Did you ride right along the river?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice road.
You just ride along this
the course
creek,
comes up that.
along this creek or this river or whatever. Like it's pretty incredible. Yeah. It's a cool area here for sure.
Yeah, I mean the hills aren't like Tennessee big, but they're big enough that you know they're there
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, and they're steep.
Yes.
Like, every uphill gets your heart rate up. It's not a slow 3% climb for 10, 15 minutes. It's elevate your heart rate, spike it, and just plow up this steep little section.
The steepest and worst climb of the day is on a gravel road. Today it was like mile 60, 65. And it's about 2.5 miles at, I think it went like 9% or something. And it kicked up worse at a couple of the turns. It's just awful. And of course it was slimy and greasy the whole way up, but nightmare fuel.
So between the three of us, Zach, Mitch, what is the suggestion, or what will you say to people that come to Mohican and want to take this on themselves? Zach, why don't you start?
I would say that past years' times are irrelevant because the course changes. So even if the rain hadn't happened, the course likely was still more difficult than the past years.
Absolutely.
And then absolutely do not, if you come from a flat plate, like, do not underestimate the climbing.
Yeah.
Yep, I would say, be prepared for rocks, roots, and just tons and tons of relentless punchy climbs. The whole course is just punch, 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 punch.
Yeah, we're podcasting. You want to come over here and tell me how you did?
I finished.
Jason, yeah.
I don't know if I want to be on a podcast.
Yeah, do it. Come on.
Peer pressure.
So we saw each other at the porta potty. And
Yeah.
that's when I was not about to, but I did I just said I'm not doing this anymore.
Is that where you quit then?
Yeah, I
for
quit,
the day?
yeah.
Yeah, with no rear brakes, that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
A lot of mud and a lot of downhills.
So how'd it go for you?
Finished, no crashes. I was happy with that. Just took my time, paced it where it was comfortable. Finished under 9 hours, so I was happy with that.
What race did you do?
I did the 100K. I didn't do the 100
But
mile.
your story sounds a lot less interesting than. Did you have like a crash or something?
I know. There's nothing exciting. I just was like steady
Good.
and like
Good for you. Good for you.
played it conservative. Yeah, it was like I tried to keep myself out of the ER today.
Yeah.
And like
Well,
just,
seriously,
yeah.
that is.
It was a good training race for me, getting ready for lumberjack. So I was kind of looking
Okay.
at it that way.
That was a big thing for me too. Like thinking about being in the hospital. I'm like, I don't want to do this again. You know.
Yeah, I think I might be good with Mohican for a while. I've done the 100 mile and the 100K, and
Yeah.
it's a hard race, super
Yeah.
hard. It's just uphill, and then the downhills are steep. I was wishing there was like a 2 or 3% grade that was downhill for a mile or two, but it's just like steep down and there's a stop sign or a sharp
Were either
turn.
of you or any of you like, anytime it went uphill, I was like, thank God. Like in this condition, like I was like, I just want uphill. No?
Yeah, that's the worst. No.
Like the downhills for me, it was like so greasy and like,
Yeah.
That's because you had no brakes.
that's because I had no brakes. But
Yeah.
I will say the recon races were a much better choice than the Aspens, though.
sure. But yeah, it was a day.
It was
What a
really
day.
those horse trails that were the worst.
Oh, my God.
They were
Oh, my
just a
God.
mud pit.
Yeah.
At least the water bars were gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's some
heard they
little
took
ones,
those
but
out,
those
right?
aren't
Yep. Yeah, the water bars used to be horrific. Now it's just a giant mud pit. So it was, you could keep moving and you didn't have to fall over on the bar, but these big old blocks of wood in the middle of the course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was an adventure.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. So.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. You guys too. What'd you guys do? You were doing the 100 mile, right? You're all doing the 100 mile. Okay.
Only one of us
You
finished.
finished. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's tough. They made it hard this year too, because you had to
Oh, they
do
did.
the whole Mohican State Park.
Yeah, coming
loop.
up. So we came into the state park at the end, and there's a sign that says 100K finish, 100 mile, only after your second loop finish at 99 miles, and then the arrow points out onto the course. 100 mile, second loop. I know I'm going to be back here in 2 hours, and
Oh,
I
man.
hate that sign. You just want to throw it off the side of the trail.
Yeah. Well, congrats, man. I didn't envy you.
No.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, what's your next race? What are you guys doing next?
Lumberjack.
Lumberjack.
Yeah.
Yep.
See you there.
Yep. Cool. Well, good chatting with you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Thanks.
So if you guys had to say one favorite thing from today, and you can't say the taco truck.
Can I
Taco
say?
truck was good.
Taco truck was
Can I say the beer tent?
I did think that the episode should be called Mohican, No Breaks But Beers. Or No Breaks But Brews.
No. Yeah. I like that. Last of the Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, my ride is called the Mohican Mud Bog, so
Yeah. I will say that I think my favorite thing about this is just checking out this area of riding. I loved the trails. I think it's such a cool area to ride. Come here for a weekend. Come here for, in the summer. Like, I think this is a great area to check out.
it is. And the crew around here, I forgot who they are, but they do a great job of keeping the trail up. They keep it clear. They keep it in good shape. They'll come out after this race and do a ton of work to make sure that all the damage we did today, which was substantial, is gone.
Yeah.
I would say my highlight was the start. I don't think there's anything cooler going to an event. The weather is not what people would choose if they picked their dream day of riding, and just people were positive and pumped up to be there. Like, that gets me jazzed. Like, the race didn't end the way I wanted, but I mean, like, we still had a great day on bikes for as long or as short as we made it, and it was cool. I know Mitch and I talked about this earlier, and he's like, I don't know if I think that it was great that we just go uphill and just try a hill, but it was really cool from my perspective just to see this sea of riders going up this hill. It was sweet.
It is pretty cool. It's
That's
it's
awesome.
interesting when you're like in that front mix and everyone's throwing elbows. And there was
see
one
that.
crash when we turned onto the road that turned into dirt, if you know what I'm talking about. Like 3 or 4 guys went down right and like next to in front of me, but I was able to get around them. Like every year someone goes down there, but I mean there's not another good way to spread the pack out before we get onto the single track. And I think it's nice that they do that, because if we started in the campground and just got right into the course,
awful.
Horrible.
Like the people like us, we'd be just sitting there standing forever, waiting for it to funnel out.
Yeah.
And then you'd have so much passing that it would slow
It'd be
the
a
whole
mess.
race down too much.
Yep. Yeah, so it is a good way to start it.
Yeah.
But I mean, regardless, it was a good time. And man, guys, like Zach, you killed it. Like you rode for as long as you could, man. I mean, and it was amazing. Mitch finishing amazing. You guys are awesome.
I'll
Well,
definitely
thank
come
you,
back.
and next year we'll be back at it again.
Yeah,
Yep,
for
for
sure.
The Dirty Chain Podcast is a Michigan Midpack Media production in partnership with KOM Cycling, the source for your bike accessories and necessities. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Dirty Chain Podcast. Email dirtychainpodcast@gmail.com. If you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you use to listen. Audio editing and original music by myself, Trevor Gibney. A huge thank you to Mitch and Zach and Jason for joining us on this episode. And thank you all for listening to the Dirty Chain Podcast. And as always, keep your chain clean and keep your brake pads fresh. We will see you in the mid-pack.